what's good for the L, the G, and the B, even though the B is always left out. I'm sorry, bisexuals. I love you guys so much, and you guys are always left out of everything. Hey everyone, it's Erin, aka Grishno, and I'm just here today to say congratulations to everyone in the gay rights movement, because we have done it. The job has been completed. Gay marriage is now the law across the land, and that's it. We're done. We can just pack it up, right? Well, not so fast. There's actually a lot more to do, and that's sort of what I wanted to come on and talk about today, was the transgender moment that we seem to be finding ourselves in at this point in time. It's different. It feels different than it has before. And I've been trying to figure out exactly why. So if you have ideas about what's different or why it feels different, let me know in the comments below, because you guys always help me figure out my thoughts on these sorts of things. But here's what I've come up with so far. For so long, the main goal of the LGBT movement has really been focused on the LGB, and the T has always felt like this sort of afterthought, whether it's employment non-discrimination at the national level with ENDA, or at the state level with things like GENDA in New York, that just focus on non-discrimination in the workplace or housing or things like that. So often these sorts of things will just focus on sexual orientation. And they'll say, okay, well, we'll get the trans people later. We'll come back for you. A similar thing was happening with marriage. So for a long time, it was like, you know what? Marriage is the thing. We need it. We're going to fight state by state, and we're going to get it. And you know what? We got it. We got it. But here's the thing. Marriage isn't really a trans issue. I mean, it is in that, like, I'm married and trans people get married, but it's not the same sort of issue that we've always had. Trans people have faced very different issues when it comes to marriages. There's very different legal issues. For example, Morgan and I, we've been married for 6 years. We got married using my original birth certificate, which said male. And we were able to sort of use that loophole. But when I changed my gender on my birth certificate after my surgery in 2011, I was worried. Is my marriage still valid? Is somebody going to try and fight back against it? Those aren't gay marriage issues. Those are trans issues. And for so long, we haven't been focused on them. We've just been focused on what's good for the L, the G, and the B, even though the B is always left out. I'm sorry, bisexuals. I love you guys so much, and you guys are always left out of everything. I'm so sorry about that. But now it's the trans moment. It's that moment where we finally reach some sort of tipping point in gay rights, where now most of the country, over 50%, supports gay rights. And it's become incredibly clear that we are lacking when it comes to trans rights. You look at violence, for example, and violence against LGBT people, reported violence, is on the rise. That could be one of two things. It could be that violence is actually going up. It could also be that more people feel comfortable reporting violence that was already happening. So there's two things, but reported violence is on the rise. But the overwhelming violence that we see is against trans women, and especially against trans women of color. There are very specific issues. Violence is one, access to appropriate health care is another, that are entirely different and very specific to the transgender community. And as we've reached this level of parity with the LGB movement, all of a sudden everyone is saying, well, now what? Now what do we do? Gay marriage is legal. Now what? Obamacare is here. Now what? And time again, it keeps coming back to transgender people. I think that we're at a moment here. I think we are, as Time magazine put it, at the transgender tipping point. I think we're there. I think that it's up to us now to seize the moment and to do what we can to make the most of it. You know, whatever your thoughts are on Caitlyn Jenner, like, she is bringing massive amounts of publicity to the transgender movement. Orange is the New Black and Laverne Cox, huge, explosive attention is coming to the movement through her. More and more you're seeing transgender kids in the news, in the media, constantly. Like, I just did a search today, I swear. I just did a Google News search for the word transgender, and like in the last 3 days, there have been like 4 or 5 different stories about different transgender youth. I remember when the 2020 Barbara Walters story came out with Jazz Jennings, right? Is it Jennings? But Jazz, and that was huge. That was this big moment for the transgender community. Wow, we're on 2020. And then just this morning I do a news search and we're looking at 4 to 5 in just the last day. It's totally different. We are at if you compare where we are now with where we were 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, it's totally different. We're at the moment. It's the transgender moment. I'm so excited to be here because for so long, I feel like I've been screaming and yelling and nobody's been hearing. I've been saying, yes, that's great. Let's get marriage happening. Like, let's get X happening. But we need to also have an eye towards what's going to affect the transgender community. That's been my goal and my passion for so long. And so often it feels like I'm talking to a wall when I'm trying to make that happen, when I'm trying to speak up or to advocate. And that's so frustrating. And all of a sudden, everyone's like, wait a second. There's Erin, and she's talking about trans stuff. Let's listen to her. And I'm like, what? About time? I've been saying this for years. Anyway, it's an interesting time. It is an interesting time, and I want to hear what you guys have to say. What do you think? Are we actually at the transgender tipping point? Is this the moment in America, in the United States, where transgender people move into the mainstream? Have we reached that point? If so, what do we do about it? Where do we go from here? How do we make the most of this moment? I want to hear your thoughts because it's incredibly empowering to hear what everyone thinks about this. If you want to get in contact with me, I'm on Twitter @Grishno. I'm also on Facebook.com/Grishno. If you like this video, if you like the topic, give it a like below. It really helps. Subscribe if you want to see more from the channel. And then don't forget about the Patreon campaign, which is helping to make new content for the channel with 1 video every Friday. And until next time, I'm Grishno, and I'll see you later. Bye. As always, if you want to get in contact with me, oh man, this is awful. Anyways,